Thanks for joining us here at CBR. Victor Von Doom, better known as Doctor Doom, is headed to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of Marvel's greatest supervillains is set to be portrayed by none other than the man behind the other Iron Mask, Robert Downey Jr. Let's get to know Doctor Doom's origins a little better.
Regards from Victor Von Doom.
Way back in 1962, Doctor Doom made his comic book debut in Fantastic Four issue 5. In that initial appearance, seeds were planted, revealing that Reed Richards, better known as Mr. Fantastic, had a past with Doctor Doom, making for an exciting tease that would be fleshed out later. As far as characters go, there was little dimensionality to this first Doom appearance, but one thing was certain: he was a formidable foe for our heroes, only losing because fate deemed it so, along with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. But Doctor Doom, one of the most iconic Silver Age characters, would live to fight another day and receive a robust backstory along the way. 2 years after Doctor Doom's debut, Fantastic Four Annual Volume 1, Issue Number 2 gave flesh to the bare bones of Doom's background. The fantastic origin of Doctor Doom instantly became one of Marvel's best and most influential backstories, so much so that people are still tinkering with it to this day. In the fictional Eastern European country of Latveria, somewhere at the crossroads of Hungary, Siberia, and Romania, Victor Von Doom is born. Latveria is an interesting place, not just for being a modernized medieval society, but for its embellishments such as high-tech weaponry, and for being where Doctor Doom is from and later rules. In Fantastic Four Annual Issue 2, Doctor Doom laments his mother's death on the anniversary of her untimely passing. With his main henchman Boris, Doom recounts his origins and how he came to take up the throne of Latveria. Flashback to a couple of decades earlier. Werner von Doom, Victor's father, is a Romani healer whose skills were of certain repute. Werner is sent for by Latveria's then-ruler, the despot king Vladimir, aka Vladimir Fortunov, aka Baron Tristan Mangegi de Sabat, to heal his wife, the ailing queen. However, Werner's methods proved ineffective against the queen's cancer, and she died a short time later. In turn, the king set his royal guard to hunt down and kill Werner. Werner absconded into the frigid wilderness with his young son Victor, at the time just a young boy. Through their arduous travels, Werner succumbs to the extreme cold, but not before Victor is entrusted into the care of Boris. Cynthia Von Doom's story is even more tragic. Cynthia was rightfully furious with the treatment of Romani people under the king's disturbed rulership. The king took several measures to disturb, hurt, and outright kill these unprotected citizens. Tired of their mistreatment, Cynthia sought supernatural means to kill the king. So it was that Cynthia gained an audience with the demonic entity known as Mephisto, who granted Cynthia powers beyond her wildest dreams. However, there was a dark twist to the bargain. In the most important incident to occur during Cynthia's lifetime, she went on a rampage, using her powers to kill members of the Royal Guard. However, as it turned out, the price for life was life, and several innocents, including children, were killed in the process. These actions, though intended to free her people, ultimately brought down the king's merciless retribution, costing Cynthia her life and leading to further calamities for the Romani people. Sometime after the death of both of his parents, Victor found his mother's belongings, a chest containing a wide array of magical items, from books to relics and more. Victor dove headfirst into studying these mystical items. This moment also solidified Victor's multi-fold sense of purpose. On the one hand, Victor desired nothing more than to speak with his deceased mother once again. On the other hand, his sense of justice, or lack thereof, would harden his sense of self-reliance, which would eventually become the problem of Marvel heroes everywhere. Concurrent to his study of the dark arts, Victor also began to explore science, possibly because he wanted to leave no stone left unturned in the pursuit of Romani liberation and the ultimate goal of resurrecting his mother. At his core, Doctor Doom is a student who will commit himself wholly to his practice if he believes in the end goal. Doctor Doom's commitment to understanding himself, his enemies, and the world makes him much more formidable than the average supervillain. Victor was offered a scholarship to university, a strange moment moment that would put Victor in the path of the man who would become his primary adversary, Reed Richards. From their first encounter, the relationship between Victor and Reed was adversarial. Even in jest, the two outspoken, deeply intelligent individuals saw worthy competition, which meant putting friendship on the back burner in favor of unhealthy one-upmanship.
Besides, Victor's not that bad. He's just a little larger than life.
In class, Victor pored over the development of a device that would allow him to communicate with the dead. Victor knew that the device's success would mean being able to communicate with his mother, Cynthia, in the plane beyond life. However, Victor's plans were thwarted. Victor was warned that his device would not work, but it was really thanks to tampering by Ben Grimm that ensured the experiment's utter disaster. When Victor turned on the device, it exploded. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the incident, except for Victor, whose face was severely disfigured. With his singed ego and new look, Victor was promptly expelled from the university, which solidified his lifelong grudge against the people who would eventually become the Fantastic Four. Victor's expulsion sends him packing, quite literally, traveling the world in search of meaning. Ultimately, he lands in Tibet, where he falls in with a group of monks who train him in various disciplines. It's here that Victor gains his armor, imbued with powers that only the monks could provide. The alloy itself is nearly indestructible. From Tibet, Victor returns to Latveria. Back in his homeland, Victor rallies the political dissidents and average citizens who have, until this moment, been at the mercy of King Vladimir. Victor kills the king and installs himself as the ruler of Latveria. Most importantly, he has the blessing of his people, who view him as a savior. People who will continue to support him through his quest of global dominance. Becoming Dr. Doom, Victor proceeds to use Latveria as his central base of operations, which ends up making the country a formidable global power in terms of resources, technological advancement, and more besides. While Doom could simply provide the necessary privations to his people and rule in relative peace, he sets his sights on expansion, believing himself to be the most deserving ruler of the world. But before his plans can go into effect, which countless comics will illustrate, he sets his sights on the Fantastic Four, particularly Reed Richards.
Well then, to our future.
Over the next several years, Doom will invade Fantastic Four storylines and cross over into other characters' comics as well, always with a new plan and new technology to aid him in his conquest. Early instances of Doom's attacks tend to prioritize the immediate danger that Doom presents over his larger plans, but eventually they come to light with stories like Secret Wars. It's also important to note that Dr. Doom isn't always the bad guy either, sometimes teaming up with the good guys, when it is mutually beneficial, and for only as long as it is necessary. One notable example is when Doom teams up with Doctor Strange to go on a quest to find and save his mother's soul from Mephisto. Dr. Doom's timeline changes in detail depending on the authors who take up the cause. However, some aspects are present throughout each of Doom's journeys. For starters, he is always methodical in his plans of attack. Utilizing various self-invented technologies and the assistance of magic, Doom wages battles that are often personally motivated. When Doom's plans fail, he returns to the drawing board and folds the lesson into his next siege. When his mystical abilities aren't enough, he travels the globe, and throughout time in search of the right spell to give him the edge. Above all, Doom is relentless, which has given him staying power across all these comic book appearances.